All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome. Another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 167. And today, I want to talk about me. Not really. I need a drink. Really? Come on. There we go. Uh, so, for anyone who doesn't know, I have weekly therapy sessions that for the past, I don't know, year, 2 years, something like that, have basically, maybe closer to 3 years now, have basically been focused on, I guess you could call it maintenance. Effectively, I'm not, I'm not getting better. Uh, my various mental disorders. Sorry, I got some in my eye that I need to clear out very quickly here, so pardon me. Much, much better. All right, so my various mental disorders are not getting better, quote unquote. Quote. My agoraphobia is as bad now as it has been for a couple years. My panic attacks are not getting any better and things like that. However, I'm still alive. And so that's kind of what my therapy focuses on right now is basically just getting me to the next day until we come up with something that would be a game changer for me that might allow me to start getting better. So that being said, when I have my weekly therapy sessions, we talk about a lot of different things. And one of the things we talk about quite often is some of the skills that I developed being a manager and how I find ways to use them now that I'm no longer in management, that I can't actually be in management. And one of the skills that through talking with my therapist and kind of explaining some of the things I went through when I was in retail and then some of the conversations I've had with other people now, one of the skills I didn't realize I was as skilled at as I am is specifically conflict resolution. Um, and the reason why I've started kind of understanding that my understanding of conflict resolution and my ability to use it effectively um, tends to be better than a lot of the people that I know and a lot of people that I don't know. Is we'll talk about certain situations that have been brought up either from my D&D games or from things that have happened online or things that have happened with my family or whatever. And I'll talk about kind of the thought process behind the actions that I take. And resolution in and of itself is an incredibly valuable skill to have. But it's also unbelievably difficult because to be really, really good at conflict resolution, you have to basically be able to I hate this phrase and I'll explain why in a second. You have to be able to see things from other people's point of view. And that phrase is used so often when you are learning conflict resolution, when people talking about it. It's like, we really need to see things from their point of view. And to me, that bit of advice is about as useful as one of my favorite jokes in the world to do is I will be watching a streamer friend of mine stream something. They will die doing something in the stream, And I will chime in with, have you tried not dying? And the reason I find that joke so funny is because it's a commentary on a lot of different things. One, there are a lot of people that will watch you do something and then immediately assume that they understand what's going on, and so they will just give you this advice that's completely pointless and worthless. And a lot of times the advice is so blatantly obvious that it feels like it's a joke. And so that idea of, have you tried not dying? I find absolutely hilarious. And when people are talking about conflict resolution and saying, well, you need to see things from other people's perspectives, or you need to be able to see things from their perspective. To me, that's about as useful as, have you tried not dying? Or if we don't want to put it into that kind of macabre terms, have you tried not losing? Or have you tried winning? These are all completely worthless pieces of advice because they basically overly simplify an extremely complex idea. And the idea of conflict resolution and seeing something from someone else's point of view is unbelievably complicated. And the idea of just saying, well, have you tried looking at it from their point of view is as useful as, have you tried winning? Have you tried not being bad at games? Have you tried just, being good? I mean, it makes me think of, whenever I'm sick, I stop being sick and be awesome instead. True story. If anyone doesn't know what that quote is from, you had a better mid 2000s to 2010s than I do, or a worse one. I'm not sure which. But it's a completely worthless platitude that means nothing. See something from their point of view. Okay, what does it mean? What exactly do you want me to do? What actual thought process do you want me to go through? Because obviously, if I could see things from their point of view, we wouldn't be having this conflict. The quote from Patch Adams, if I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong, or something akin to that. I can't remember the exact quote. I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. That's how most people approach conflict in general. I'm right, you're wrong. Which, by the way, is an incredibly healthy way to view your own ideas. You should believe that you are right, and if someone disagrees with you, you should believe that they are wrong. That's how our brains work. However, if you want to resolve something, going in with the idea of, well, I'm going to convince them how to be right, is never going to work. Ever in a million years. And trust me, I've tried it far too many times. The only good advice I can give for conflict resolution that actually has value, that can actually help someone when dealing with a stressful situation, which, for this channel, we talk mostly about tabletop RPGs. And as a game master or a dungeon master, conflict resolution is one of the things that you need to be relatively familiar with. Do you need to be absolutely fantastic with it? No. But it's a useful tool to have in your GM toolbox, because invariably something is going to come up, and whether it is right or not, or whether it's acceptable or not for the DM to effectively be kind of the arbiter of all conflicts in a D&D game is irrelevant. A lot of players, because the DM is already in a leadership style position, a lot of players will look to their DM to resolve more than just rules questions. Do I think that's fair? Absolutely not. However, it's a fact of life. It's just how it works. When you are put into a position where people view you as a leader, they will naturally defer to you in a lot of different situations, and they will naturally just look to you for answers. So the ability to use effective conflict resolution is very, very useful for game masters in general. And then, again, as a manager, it was essential. That was half of my job. Easily half, probably 60, 70, 80% of my job was just conflict resolution. And just going, well, you need to see it from their point of view means absolutely nothing. But if you can approach it this way, approach the situation as if you are wrong and they are right. Again, it's significantly more complicated than a single phrase can explain, but I think that is the most difficult thing that a lot of new managers and a lot of game masters and a lot of just leaders in general have the hardest time dealing with, because when you are put into a leadership position for whatever reason, whether you are actually put there by someone else, whether you are just kind of thrust into it due to being the person that people tend to look at, whether you're put into it kicking and screaming, whatever. A lot of people assume that being a good leader means being right. And we have this kind of inbound need to be the one that's right, especially when a conflict breaks out. We have this primal urge that we need to be the one that's right. We need to be the one that's in the right, the one that is not doing all the bad things. And part of that comes from the idea that our brains really don't like the idea of us being bad. I've talked about this before when I've talked about playing villains and writing villains. Villains don't consider themselves bad guys. They consider themselves the hero of their story. Nobody considers themselves the bad guy. Everybody always thinks that they're the good guy and everybody else is wrong. So going into a conflict with the idea that I am the person that is wrong here and they are the person that is right, is unbelievably difficult. It's incredibly difficult because it goes against our psyche. It goes against our kind of basic urges of, no, I'm the hero of my story, and now I'm being, I'm having to take this kind of subservient role to someone that, at this particular instance, I don't like them because they're saying I'm wrong and I'm not wrong. I know that I'm not wrong. They're obviously wrong, but they're too stupid to understand that they're wrong. So going into a conflict with the mindset that this person is right and I am wrong will vastly change how you deal with the situation. Now, that doesn't mean that your first response should always be, oh, you're right, I'm wrong, I will change. But if you start with the idea of, well, they're right and I'm wrong, your brain has to come up with the idea of, how can I be wrong? I can't be wrong. Everything makes sense to me, and if it makes sense, it must be right. But if they're right and I'm wrong, something is really, really wrong here. And it forces you to kind of get out of your own brain for just a second. So if you start the conflict resolution with the idea that they're right and I'm wrong, that will put you in the mindset to start seeing things, quote unquote, from their perspective. Because if they're right, that means that obviously you're wrong and things need to change in order for everything to become resolved. Now, again, this doesn't mean that proper conflict resolution is always acquiescing to whatever the other party wants. Or a lot of times, once you get into leadership positions, you're not resolving your own conflict, you're resolving two other people's conflicts. Starting from the viewpoint of this person is right will help mend a little bit of the damage that's already been done from just conflict in general. Like, conflict creates arguments, conflict creates pain, and so by the time a conflict actually happens, there's already pain on both sides. Even if it's two friends that are just arguing about a ruling in D&D, there's already this tiny bit of pain because both of them are saying the other person is wrong. So you just pick one person. Start from the position of, okay, well, let's say you're right. Explain your thought process to me. Help me to understand why it is that you're right. Don't come into this as, well, you're obviously wrong, so explain how wrong you are. Go into the thing, okay, I need you to help me understand why it is that you're right. And again, that's another really, really big mistake that a lot of people could come into, is they listen to it and they think that they have to come up with who is right and who is wrong from the beginning before they can even start managing the conflict. And that's not what it is. What you need to do is you need to understand everybody that's in that situation. So going in, starting with, okay, explain to me why you're right. Explain to me your thought process. Let me hear everything that you're thinking, and you have to phrase it in a way that it's not, okay, listen, explain yourself. Why the hell are you doing this stupid thing? That's not going to help. Just go, hey, I'm a little bit confused here. I just need a little bit more clarity. Help me understand why it is that you're right. Help me understand your point of view. Help me understand why it is that I have misjudged this situation. And then once that's done, and you finally understand the position that they are taking, then you can reevaluate your own position. Where you, okay, I have all the facts from this person. I understand this is their thought process. This is what they're trying to do. Now I can go back to what I thought was going on and start fitting in the different pieces and going, well, this is what I assumed, and this is what they just told me, and this is their assumption. And now you can start going, okay, I have a better picture of what's going on. And then if there are multiple parties involved, you go to the next person and go, okay, tell me why it is that you are right. Help me understand why it is that you're right. Help me understand why I'm wrong. Again, it's not convince me that you're right. You're going into the conversation with the idea of you're right, I'm wrong, but I need you to explain why, because I don't understand. I understand that I'm wrong. I need you to explain. Because again, if you go into it as like, explain yourself, I don't agree with you, so you better convince me, then they're going to already be on the defensive. They're already going to be at, DEFCON 3, considering that they're in a more emotional state because the conflict is happening and it's happening right in front of them. You don't want them becoming defensive, because then instead of trying to explain what's going on, they're going to be defending themselves, and they're going to be avoiding telling you anything that might make them sound unsure of themselves. You will get less information from them if you go into a situation with the idea of, okay, explain yourself. This is a problem. You need to tell me why it is that you're not wrong. No. Go, hey, I need you to help me understand why I am wrong. I need you to help me understand why you're right. When they already have this understanding that, okay, we're going into this conversation with the assumption that I'm right, that will help them to communicate with you better. And again, it will give you more information than you would get if you just go, hey, you're wrong. No, I'm not. Okay, well, explain why you're not wrong, because I think you're wrong. And then once you get the entire story from every single party involved, then you can sit back and go, okay, this is my understanding. This is this person's understanding. This is the other person's understanding. Now we need to fit the pieces together, because obviously we can't all be right. So there are some misconceptions from a lot of different people. And that's when you can start breaking down barriers and go, okay, can we all agree that this particular aspect of this person's story makes sense? They are upset that you tried to take away their victory by also casting a spell at the exact same time to claim that you killed the monster instead of them. Okay, we can all kind of understand that idea of, yeah, it does feel kind of bad when you were about to get the killing blow and then someone else did it or tried to claim. Can we also understand from this person that they could see things that their character could see things that your character couldn't, and it was possible that the bad guy was going to survive your final blow, and so they were just trying to help. Yeah, that makes sense. They could see things that are in a different spot. They could see something that I couldn't. Stuff like that. This is a really, really dumb thing to mitigate, but I just watched a video about some old Critical Role stuff, and that was one of the things that came up, and so my brain stuck on it. But yeah, and that's how you get to actual conflict resolution, instead of just making rulings of you're right, you're wrong, you should be punished for it. That's what courts do, and the only reason that courts are able to do it is because when you don't listen to the court, bad things happen, like jail. It's the same thing as pulling rank. Pulling rank only works in the military because when you disobey an officer, you can be charged, and depending on how bad you disobeyed that officer, you can end up dead. Like, there's a lot of weight. They have the rule of law on their side. It's not going to, even if you think that you are the arbiter of justice at the table, being the game master, or again, from a business perspective, even if you think that as the manager or even as the owner that you have final say over everything and you are the ultimate power and law in your domain, you're not. You just aren't. There's nobody in the world that has that kind of power in any situation aside from an actual courtroom. And even then, the stuff that's been happening with quite a few different judges across the country, there are a lot of judges that think that they have authority that they don't have. Like, even in the courtroom, judges only have so much authority. And the same thing is true about being a game master, about being a manager, about just being a leader in general. You are not the deity of your domain. DMs are not gods. I hate it when people are kind of explaining what the different things do. Like, well, we're player characters, so we're playing a single character, and then the DM is God. They're not. They may create the world that you are adventuring in, but they are not deities. They are beholden to their players, because with no players, you have no game. You can't play D&D by yourself. Well, you can, but it's not the same experience. If you want to be the supreme ruler and overlord of your creative endeavors, write a book. Because then nobody can tell you what you're doing is wrong. But you also have to do everything yourself. And playing with yourself is only fun for so long. Stop it. I did that on purpose. That's what I thought. So, yeah, I've been watching so many situations where conflict resolution is just handled incredibly poorly in so many different situations. Whether it's at whether it's at a TTRPG table, whether it's part of like on a Discord server, on a Reddit or a subreddit. I just see so many times that conflict resolution is just not utilized at all, and you just have one person that decides that they are the arbiter, and they just get to choose who is right and who is wrong. And then when they choose that, they expect everyone to simply accept it because it was their word and their word is law. And that's not how it works anywhere. Hell, even in the court of law, a judge can say something and go, no, I said it and it's my courtroom, so it is law, and then get appealed and turned over on that appeal instantly. Nobody is infallible. And if you really want to create an environment where people feel comfortable enough to be creative with you and comfortable enough to try new things, you need to understand proper conflict resolution. You need to, again, I hate this phrase, you need to be able to see it from their point of view. You need to be able to get out of your own head. And like I said, the only thing I can say, and it's not spectacular advice, but it's better than see it from their point of view, is go into the conflict with the idea that they are right and you are wrong. And then work from there. Don't settle any conflict instantly as soon as one person is shown to be the victor, the one in the right. Because even if someone is in the right, does not mean that their solution is the right solution for that particular situation. Being right is not that important. Having a solution that everyone can accept, right, wrong, or otherwise, is significantly more important. So, like I said, it was just it's been something that's been weighing on my mind recently, and it's something that frustrates me to no end when it's done poorly, because bad conflict resolution can destroy friendships, can destroy families. I've seen it happen with families. It can sink businesses. It can do so many different things. And it all generally kind of comes back to the idea that the person that is in the position of authority, the person that's trying to resolve the conflict, always goes into it with this idea, well, I'm obviously right and they have to do what I tell them. And that's not how it works. Even if you are the person that technically has the authority, authority only goes as far as people allow it to. People only have the authority that we give them, with a few very rare exceptions. So if you go into a conflict with this idea of, well, I'm going to figure out who's right and who's wrong, and then when I declare who's right and who's wrong, they're going to accept it, you're going to fail. But if you go into it with the idea of, I'm going to learn as much as I can, and I'm going to come up with a way for everyone to accept a result, that tends to be the most, what's the word I'm thinking of? That will get you the most positive results most often. So, yeah. It really sucks that I can't work anymore. It really, really does. Because I used to really enjoy... I didn't enjoy retail. Retail sucks. But I did enjoy being in a position where I was good at what I did. That's all for me today. See you guys next time, alright? Bye-bye.